How's it going? How are you?
Good. You know, work, life, shit.
Yeah. How was work?
It was exhausting, but I bonded with one of my coworkers about how this career is just like burnout central.
Yeah.
And he feels the same way, which sucks for both of us, but at least, you know, I'm not alone.
At least if this boat is sinking, we are sinking together.
Right, exactly.
It's nice.
How about you? How's work? Better than mine, I hope.
Well, I didn't go to work today. I am off on Tuesdays.
Bitch.
I know. I have split days off, so
yeah,
I don't work more than 3 days a week. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I really hate working 5 days in a row.
Does it ever bother you though that you don't have 2 days off together?
See, because on Sunday and Mondays I work 5 a.m. to 1 p.m.
So you still get the afternoons?
Yeah, so Monday afternoon I'm free already, and then I'm free all day Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it feels like a day and a half. And then I don't go back to work on Wednesday until 12 or 2 p.m.
Okay, so you almost get that 2 days. It's just not like a day and a day. It's like a half day, a full day, and then another half day.
Right. But yeah, so it's fine. Because then I get home on Sunday afternoon and I hang out with Nick for the rest of his Sunday.
Yeah.
So usually he's like just barely getting out of bed by the time I get home on Sunday anyways, so it's whatever.
I don't blame him, but I still haven't gotten out of my college sleep schedule, really. Like, I used to be such an early bird as a kid, and now I'm like, I cannot wake up.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'm a morning person. As disgusted as I am to say that out loud in front of you and whoever's listening.
God and everybody.
God and everybody. Yeah, I think I'm a morning person.
Nice.
Yeah, I just have so much energy in the morning. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
I love that for you.
Thanks. I love it for me too. Hey there, all you sibling type people, and welcome back to Sister Show Me How. I'm Ricky Tikitavi, your how-to sister and host of Sister Show Me How.
Hey guys, I'm Slim M, your co-host of Sister Show Me How, and your other how-to sister.
So if you're listening this week and you are thinking, the audio sounds way better than the first episode, there is a reason for that. We had them on, we had them turned on, but I will accept full ownership of this bullshit. I connected them wrong end to the product end, so I messed up the chords, and
hey, shit happens. But don't we sound sexy now?
I love it. You can even hear us if we whisper to you.
ASMR.
We figured out what happened. We realized how to prevent it in the future, and we are now moving forward in grace. And that is a perfect segue for what we're talking about today, which is grace. What is it? How do I find it? And how do I cultivate it? Let's talk about it.
You know, when I think about grace and how we sort of define grace, or like the thing that comes to my mind most when we talk about grace today is, first of all, I think about physical grace and elegance.
Okay.
Which is absolutely not what we want to talk about today.
Like a ballerina.
Yeah. We don't care if you're clumsy. I'm clumsy. I've got a bruise on me right now, I'm sure, somewhere.
Yeah, me too. And most of them, I don't know where they're from.
Same. Same.
Not quite sure where they came from. I think that it's that being from Texas, I think the thing that comes up most for me in my past when I think of grace is God's grace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that one a lot too, because, you know, Bible Belt babies.
yeah, it's not much better being in Oklahoma, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, I looked it up, and most of them say that God's grace is the Christian gift of forgiveness / good Samaritanship. Mm-hmm. They literally define it as an undeserved favor.
I really hate the wording of that.
I'm glad you do, because
That
I do
feels
too.
really icky.
Because obviously there's like guilt and a blame construct tied to that.
It's a very fear-based, you know,
Yes.
and that's one of those things I hate, where people are like, you know, I'm God-fearing.
Yes,
And
I know.
I'm just like there should be a reverence for the divine. You shouldn't be afraid of the divine. Like,
right. Should be God-loving.
yeah.
I'm a God-loving individual.
Yeah. To me, God-fearing is, I'm like, okay, that's because you've done things wrong,
Right.
which, like, then again doesn't play back into God's grace, because supposedly if you've done things wrong and God is so forgiving, you know, he's supposed to say, hey, you're only human, you make mistakes.
Right.
And
Why should you be afraid of that?
yeah.
Why should that elicit fear?
Yeah.
To get away from what society typically thinks, I actually wanted to know what the true definition of it was, rather than just like what we think other people think, because that's assuming, and you know what happens when you assume. Oh no. So I looked it up, and there are literally 7 different definitions for grace. The first one, a simple elegance or refinement of movement, which would be what you're saying, the ballerina-esque.
Yep.
The second is courteous goodwill, which I honestly, if Christians wanted to use this as their undeserved favor, I would be totally fine with this, because courteous goodwill does not elicit blame, does not have shame attached to it in any way. I would be okay if they wanted to adapt that.
Yeah, and it's this like generosity, which I think is what grace should be, is like this generous thing. It shouldn't be, that fear mongering of like, well, you don't deserve this, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. Like, ew.
Exactly. It's not a sacrifice. And I think that's what, I mean, okay, maybe it is. It's a sacrifice of my time or whatever. But when you use that word, it has like a connotation of like, you owe it back, or I'm at a loss in some way. But what you don't know is that when I'm giving to you, I'm actually getting something for myself too, because I'm feeling good about helping you. And it's not because I think it's going to make me a good person or a better candidate for heaven, but it's because I want to help you, because I think that you are deserving and worthy of that help, and I enjoy giving to you what I can.
Absolutely. I love that.
It's called growth, baby. Okay, so the third one is to do honor or credit to someone or something by one's presence. Which I don't...
I grace you with my presence.
Okay.
It's like, it's an honor for you to be here with me.
Damn straight it is.
And vice versa. You know? Yeah. It's got to go both ways, I'm feeling, because otherwise it's weird.
Okay, so the next one is a short prayer of thanks said before or after a meal, which, the Christians got one in there. Good for you. Which, although, honestly, maybe that's not subjective to just the Christians. Like, I feel like a lot of religions and different lifestyles thank the universe for the abundance of the fact that they have a food on their a plate on their table, that they have a food on their table. But that they have a...
Or thanking the harvest. I feel like there's almost always, like, most religions that I can think of off the top of my head have some sort of, like, harvest holiday or festival. So I think thanking for the abundance of food or something doesn't have to be just Christian.
No, you're right, and that's definitely me showing my bias there a little bit. Sorry about that. The sixth one is used as a form of description or address for a duke, duchess, or archbishop.
So for all of you Bridgerton fans out there, you have heard that before. Your Grace.
Oh, really? That's kind of hot, actually. I kind of like that.
Oh, yeah, it is. And he is yummy.
Oof. All right, we'll get into that later. You have to introduce me to a TV show. Anyways, the seventh one is actually in reference to Greek mythology. 3 beautiful goddesses. Agalia, Thalia, and Euphrosyne? I'm so sorry if I got that wrong, my goddess. But I'm just a dumb human, and...
We don't know Greek.
We don't... Yeah. You're so cute. Okay, but they're believed to personify and bestow charm, grace, and beauty.
Oh. Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. That I have only barely scratched the surface of Greek mythology. I'm kind of slacking in my studies lately, but I think looking at all this, it really just lays tribute, one, to the depth that Grace has, like how large her grasp on everything is.
Yeah.
But then also, I think it wildly depicts how disconnected we have become from the true meaning of grace and what that is.
Honestly, I think one of the closer ones besides courteous goodwill is like the grace period for your bills and such, because it's sort of saying like, hey, I don't know what's going on in your life, but you've got these 5 days, even though you're technically past due, that we're not going to give you any sort of punishment, late fee, etc.
Right.
Like that grace period, that's giving us grace. And honestly, I'm thankful for that because I'm forgetful.
You know, that was in here too. Did I miss that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I sure did. It was the 4th one. A period officially allowed for payment.
I figured you did it on purpose. You didn't think it was applicable enough.
Clearly not. I was like, fuck your payments. Okay, so a period officially allowed for payment, sum of due for compliance with a law or condition, especially in an extended period granted as a special favor. Yeah, that was the 4th one. I'm so sorry. I totally skipped over it.
For shame.
Yeah. So I think we've just become very disconnected from the ways that we can utilize grace as an energy for our mental health. So we're going to talk about what is grace even then, if these are not it, and how do we recognize that shit, because we want that shit in our lives.
Yeah.
First, I want us to talk about what grace isn't.
Okay.
Because I think there are a lot of ideas about what grace is, and I want to kind of break some of those myths. We're going to be mythbusters for a little bit, okay?
Sounds great.
So grace is not Christian-centered.
No.
It is not an undeserved favor. One, you are deserving of every favor that you are granted. If someone is willing to sacrifice, bestow upon you their time, attention, money, space, whatever it is, you are deserving of that. And if they make you feel like you're not, that's a control tactic, and they're trying to manipulate you.
Absolutely. Especially, I mean, even if you asked for a favor and they grant it to you, they shouldn't be holding it over your head, but especially not if they bestow that favor on you without you asking.
Yeah.
So like a great example is parents, whenever they have children and they say, you know, I gave you a roof over your head for 18 years, or I fed and clothed you for 18 years. That is a favor that they chose. They shouldn't be holding it over your head.
Yeah, that's some bullshit. And they chose to have you knowing that they would have to clothe and feed and nurture you. So I don't... that's just, yeah. It's a big one, unfortunately. It's
very common, and I think it's often said as a joke, and I don't love it, but like I'll give it a little bit of grace. That if it's said as a joke, it's probably not truly meant by the parent.
Right.
But I think that it's still part of the issue, because then people hear it and it becomes this common thing that we've talked about, you know, that you owe your parents because they had you and took care of you, which, like, that's the bare minimum.
Yeah, that's what they're obligated to do.
Yeah.
One would say contractually. They signed the fucking birth certificate, so one would say contractually you're obligated to do this thing that you are.
Honestly, yeah.
And also the grace of God is something that comes from within. That is one thing that I am very not okay with as far as most religion is concerned, is that they make God an external thing. A lot of earth religions don't do this. A lot of them obviously recognize that God is an energy that we are all trying to reach and ascend to and lift and shift through. But a lot of religions make God an external thing that you have to earn rights by.
Yeah.
Which I hate.
And it's like a control figure.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a, it's not something that you're aiming to be more godlike. It's more of, they're holding it over your head.
Right. And I just don't, bottom line is grace is not God-centered, it's people-centered. God's grace comes from within you. You grant it to yourself. It is a skill, much like everything else in our life, just like love, just like authenticity, just like confidence. You have to build that shit up. Those are all skills that we have to build on and work through and continue to cultivate and grow on top of.
Yeah. It's just like a lot of us are learning right now, in this day and age when we have more openness about mental health, that you're having to learn that you actually need to feel your feelings. And a lot of us are going, how the hell do you do that? And like, that's something you have to learn. So like, it should be natural that you also have to learn how to give grace. Because if we don't even know how to feel our fucking feelings, of course you have to learn how to give grace.
Right.
It's totally normal.
It is very normal. And it's hard. Like, don't let us sitting over here casually talking about grace make you think that this should be an easy skill, because it's fucking not. It's hard. It requires that you go through a lot of your own personal bullshit.
Oh God, that's for sure.
A lot. So, but that brings us next to my next point, is that grace is not forgiveness. And I know that is the one that people most commonly confuse grace with, is forgiveness. And it is not. It is acceptance.
And I think that they can go sort of hand in hand, but they're not the same. They're more like sisters or cousins rather than twins or the same person, you know?
See, and this is where I kind of disagree. I read this book. I gave in one of these two because this has been my fucking textbook lately. It's written by my favorite shamanistic teacher. I only have 3 of them, but this one's my favorite. His name is Shaman Durek. So you can see. And he wrote this book, Spirit Hacking, and in it, my favorite passage is literally called Fuck Forgiveness. And what he says is forgiveness is actually a blame construct.
Okay.
It implies that in a certain experience, in a certain moment, one person is right and one person is wrong. And when we forgive, we are insinuating immediately that we did everything right in that situation. It holds us to the triggered state that we were in to begin with. What we really need to be doing is recognizing that everyone played a part in a specific energetic experience, and that we each made different choices with those. Some of them may not have been exactly aligned with our most authentic being, but those are still choices that we made, and we have to accept that people did different things with the energies that they were given.
Right.
When we try to, again, forgive, we assume that we're right. And that is our egos playing into the situation.
See, I don't know if I agree with that. I think that that's beautiful, and I do, like, don't get me wrong, I think that that's great, but I think that forgiveness oftentimes can also, it's not necessarily, I forgive you for being wrong. It's like we're on 2 different sides of whatever the issue may be. And like you said, we all played a part.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that either person was right or wrong, but I think forgiveness can oftentimes be accepting that, what is the saying? We agree to disagree. You know, I think that can sometimes be forgiveness, where we're not placing blame on either party. We're just saying, you know what, we're going to agree to disagree on this one because this is my perspective and this is your perspective. and they don't have to align.
Right.
And we're going to be okay with that.
Right. And see, I think at the core of what we're saying, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
My
I think it's
issue
just
is purely just with the connotation of the word forgiveness.
But I'm not sure that connotation, maybe it is more wide. You know what? Actually, maybe you're right. Because I think that...
I love when she says that to me.
I think that typically people's brains aren't going to chop things up into tiny little minuscule pieces the way that mine does. Because I'm an overthinker.
Sure.
And so I think that I'm overanalyzing it.
Okay.
And I think that you're right. I think people do put that connotation of forgiveness as saying you were wrong and I forgive you for being wrong. I think the issue is just with my definition of forgiveness. I think it's different than maybe what the general connotation and definition is.
See, but I think your definition of forgiveness is what we should be aiming for. I think genuinely that acceptance, that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
However, you're right. I don't think that the general populace is seeing it that way. I think that Shaman Durek has it pinpointed exactly. When we say, I forgive you for doing this to me, automatically we're playing the victim. I forgive you for doing this to me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it doesn't allow for any acceptance of our own behavior in that experience. It doesn't allow for us to account for our role that we played. Because even if you took the brunt of the beating in any situation, we are not victims. Ever. In any situation. And we have to let that go.
It's slightly deeper than that, but yeah. That may be something that we get into more at a later date. But yeah, I think it's slightly more complex.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so if grace is not forgiveness, it is acceptance. And it's only once we stop pretending and victimizing and judging that we can see what grace truly has to offer. And I think a brilliant point of this for me has been, I, like everyone else, have mommy issues, right? Yeah. Parental issues in general. I got issues with both sides. I just don't speak to the other half. I adore my mother, but it was not always like that. We had a lot of really rough years in my childhood, and a lot of times when I tell people about my childhood, people are like, "Why do you still talk to her?" And I'm like, no, you don't get it. We've gone through a lot, and we've worked through a lot. To be where we are today, and we're still moving through a lot of our issues. Sometimes we still both throw complete temper tantrums, and
none of us are perfect.
You're right. And sometimes we will still go like a month without talking to each other. But I do not forgive her for any of the things that she did. She's not gonna like hearing that, but it's because I accept what happened. She was really young. She had all of us really young. She was going through a lot. She had her own demons to fight through, and I understand. And also, she was dealing with my sperm donor, and he was fucking psycho. Here's the best thing about narcissists is that for a long time I really thought that my biological sperm donor thing guy was the good guy. I generally thought that my mom was psycho and that he was the good guy.
They manipulate you so much. Like, you literally come out of a relationship with a narcissist, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship you had with them, and you think that you're crazy too, because
Been there, got that t-shirt.
Yeah. Like, the way that they twist things, literally, like, you don't trust yourself anymore because of what they've done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I, not only did I not trust myself, but I didn't trust my mother either. Mm-hmm. And she really, our relationship very much suffered from that. I was telling her today that, I was on the phone with her earlier today, and I was like, you know, Mom, I really used to think that you were the problem, that he was the victim. And she literally laughed at me. She goes, you were so naive. I said, damn straight, Ma, I sure was. Mm-hmm. Sure was. I said, but I'm not anymore, and I can promise you that. So, yeah. But I don't forgive him for what he did, and I never will. I accept it. I haven't quite moved on, but I, again, don't forgive my mom for what she did to me either, but I understand it, I accept it, and have recognized that even though our relationship is hard, does require a lot of work, that it is worth it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think what is most common in our society is that people see one little orange flag, a little bit of self-centeredness, a little bit of like a narcissistic tendency or two, not a full-blown narcissist, but a little bit, here. And they'll immediately just cut them off. And that is not okay.
No. I mean, obviously, if someone truly is horrible for you and your mental health, we're not going to advocate for you to keep people in your life who are hurting you. But I do think, and I think a great example of this is the dating world right now. Ooh. Especially on dating apps. I was just talking to actually a guy I went on a date with. He unmatched me the next morning or the night of. I don't know. But we had literally talked about this where it's so common that you go, and I think we just didn't have any chemistry. I'm not putting any sort of, I'm not, okay. Like, we both knew it was a mediocre date at best. Like, I don't have any sort of hard feelings towards him because, it was not meant to be. We didn't have chemistry, and that's totally fine. But he and I had actually had the discussion where it's super common in dating to, you see the hint of a red flag. It is the barest, lightest, palest shade of pink. And you were like, meh, out. And I'm guilty of that. I know that I am because I'm a self-sabotager and I'm working on that. But it's super easy to see something like that and think, well, if this is what I'm seeing now, a month in, how is it going to be a year in? And there's some validity to that, but also if you don't ever have the discussions with people about things like what your boundaries are and what you need, and things that you see about them and things that you see about yourself, if you don't ever have those discussions, that pink flag could turn into a green flag. Right. If you just talk about it. And I don't think that we give people the chance to talk about it. We have this mindset of people can't change and they won't change. Right. And we don't give people a chance.
I think that goes into us not showing other people grace.
Absolutely.
And okay, let me be honest with you. When I first started dating my partner, there were a lot of red flags. And I don't mean obviously I was naive. And I was thinking that they were red flags. They aren't actually red flags. He's literally a perfect human specimen. I don't know where the mold for him came from. But
if we did, we'd all have one.
I would share. He's literally that amazing that I would share the mold. I want everyone to be as happy as I am with this guy. It's literally chef's kiss. But I digress. My point is that when we first started dating, originally his older sister was my best friend. Mm-hmm. We're not anymore. That's a long story, but irrelevant. But she would tell me things about him, some of them not true. I later found out through experience. And some of them, true, but the way that she portrayed them had more of a negative context than they really deserved. She just wasn't really...
She wasn't showing him grace.
No, absolutely, you're right. And then there were
Nor was she showing you grace, because, I mean, if she had been showing either one of you any sort of grace, she would have assumed that you guys could work it out together.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of an odd situation to begin with, but there was also things that he did and was doing that I thought were a red flag. But as we have grown together, which you're supposed to do in every relationship, you're supposed to grow together and hope you don't grow apart. But if your communication is good enough, you shouldn't grow apart. You should continue to grow together. I don't know what that is, but it seems
Well, I like the emotion you're doing, because I think so many people think growing together is here's your line and here's their line and you're both going straight at the same pace at the same time.
No.
And that is not at all how it works. You're going to grow this way, he's going to grow this way, and then you're going to talk, and then you're going to go up here, he's going to go, and then come, But you have to choose to have that communication and keep choosing to work on it to get back to growing, like you said, together.
Right, and I think that that's applicable to literally every relationship, because even with us, like, there was a time where our communication wasn't as prevalent. Like, we were talking like maybe once every 2 months or so, and it was like, hey, this is blurting out what's happened in my life, hey, me blurting out what's happened in your life. But now we communicate more prevalently. Obviously, we're doing a podcast every 2 weeks, but more so than that, we talk more about what's going on within us rather than externally what's going on. And I think that when we grow together, like, the things that we grew on by ourselves contributed to increasing the intimacy in our friendship.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that that's how every relationship should go, whether that's with your siblings or your cousins or your aunts and uncles or your parents and friends, romantic partners, literally everyone. Your skills and good attributes should enhance the friendship. Your generosity should not be hoarded. Your grace should not be hoarded. As within, so without. The things that you are showing yourself, you should show other people. And I think that that's one thing that we haven't quite gotten to, actually, is showing yourself grace. Because really, it's much harder to show other people grace if you don't really know how to show yourself grace. I mean, it may be easier for people pleasers to show other people grace than themselves. I
don't think that that's true grace, though.
No, it's not. You're right, because then they're sacrificing whatever they want to be able to make sure the other person is happy. You're right. Yeah, absolutely about that. So maybe I'm wrong. That it's not easier for anybody, especially if you're a people pleaser, to show people grace. But in order to start showing yourself grace, I think you have to move through a lot of shame. Like, you have to stop guilting yourself the way other people have shamed you into feeling. Yeah, so I think that there is a lot of personal unlearning that you have to do in order to stop shaming yourself and to move through, which, sidebar, another thing that Shaman Durek says, my little buddy, is that the term work is like meh. Because it makes you feel like you have to sacrifice something in order to get it done. And it sounds like a lot of work. So what I would like for us to do is to try to move away from that term and to start saying something along the lines of moving through. Right. Instead of working on. I'm moving through this right now, because this insinuates that we are giving each emotion, each trigger that comes up, the space to exist, the room to just feel that feeling without the connotation of this is going to be a lot of work. Because it might be, you know what I mean? But it also might be hella fucking rewarding. And it also might not be a whole lot of work. But by saying, oh, I'm going to work on this, it sounds daunting. And I think in case you didn't know, all of your words are spells. Even if you're not a witch. At this point, like I don't care what your denomination of religion is. We are going to assume that all people are habitants of the earth and that they believe in things of the earth. Okay, so that's all we will speak on in this pod, is what is of the earth. And my point being is that words are spells in the sense that the words that you say have energy attached to them, and whether you believe it or not, your subconscious is picking up on that and receiving and transmitting those same frequencies and vibrations, and we really just want to make sure that we are putting out the best frequencies for our subconscious to pick up. It's like that thing that you always say about even if I'm gonna self-sabotage myself or be self-deprecating, to be sarcastic about yourself in a graceful way.
Right.
Because she's very clumsy. And so instead of saying, oh, fuck me, like, you're such a dumbass, like, or I'm really dumb today.
Right.
It would be
like, I can't believe that I keep tripping over this. I'm always just like, oh my God, I'm so graceful. I'm so beautiful. Look at me.
Elegant gazelle.
Yes, exactly. She is a vision of beauty and grace.
Because your subconscious does not understand sarcasm. And so the words that you say, even if you're saying them sarcastically, need to resonate with the way that you actually want to view yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think now that I think about, maybe I'm less clumsy. I'm like, I obviously still have bruises, but I feel like it's more from like because I crawl around on the hardwood floor after the cats or something, not because I tripped.
I love that though, and I love that that's an observation that you've made so far.
Completely not the direction I was going to take this, but that's totally fine. We're giving ourselves grace.
Yeah.
And yeah, so back to like talking about words and like not really using the word work, because it does in your mind have that really hard connotation. You know, I'm guilty of this a lot. Like, I know back in college, I would really kind of beat up on myself because I was really struggling to go to classes and clean up after myself. And like, you know, I got really depressed for the first time and I had a hard time. And, you know, I would constantly say, I really need to work on being better. I need to work on going to every single one of my classes. I need to work on not skipping. I need to work on cleaning up after myself more. And, you know,
that's a long work to-do list.
It's a lot.
That
and
would
it
get
was
overstimulating really quickly.
I was so overwhelmed, and it was really hard to even begin to start the process of doing better at all. Because, you know, if you're struggling with depression, you're already in this horrible place where you're just, you feel like you can't do anything. And then on top of that, telling yourself that you have all of this work to do, like, oh my God.
It just compounds on top of that, like, chest, weighted chest feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the ways that I ended up showing myself grace at that time is I continued to skip classes and not clean because I had other things that I needed to focus on. Right. And yeah, it was kind of gross, and yeah, I felt guilty, and yeah, I got a couple C's, but you know what? I made it through college and I feel better. Yeah. You know, because I can't imagine how I would have felt if I had continued to beat myself up the way that I initially was. Yeah. I never would have gotten out of that hole.
No.
And now my dishes are clean.
Wow.
And they're, you know, they're in the dishwasher and I cleaned them, and I do that like weekly. It's nice.
That's amazing. It's literally amazing. Like the little things are really important. Yeah, so if you hadn't given yourself any grace, then at that point, then maybe you wouldn't have gone to any of your classes. You know what I mean? Instead of getting a few C's and a couple of them, maybe you would have completely failed those classes. And I think that that is a great little segue to the point of another thing that grace looks like internally is good parenting yourself. And this is tricky for a lot of us who either had absent parents or abusive parents or just like not really great parents, or even sometimes like helicopter parents, or whatever your previous traumatic experience is with your parents. Some of the times that makes it a little more difficult to parent yourself.
Yeah.
And we, those of us particularly, have to read the manual a little bit harder, read a couple more chapters about that. And again, not an easy thing to do, but very worth it, very rewarding. And you have to be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, you have to, if anybody knows about gentle parenting, it's like a modern take on parenting instead of like spanking or some shit.
I think it might be a little more than just not beating your kid.
It's absolutely more than that. That was a joke. It's for sure more than that. You're right. But you have to, like, you gentle parent yourself. It's not just parenting yourself. Like, we're not saying that if you had a bad relationship with your parents and they treated you poorly, don't parent yourself that way. The best way is gentle parent yourself, and like, you're guiding yourself.
Yes.
And I think that it's a great way when you don't want to do something, but you know that the end result is going to be better, to guide yourself gracefully through that. You know, like, come on, we're going to get up now. We're going to get dressed. We're going to do the dishes.
Yes.
And it's just very gentle and nice.
Yes. What good, gentle parenting looks like is being a cheerleader for yourself. It's validating yourself when you need validation. It's being a cheerleader for yourself when you need motivation. It's disciplining yourself when you need discipline. I wanted another shun word, but I don't have it. But it looks like discipline, it looks like validating, it looks like supporting. That's all a child needs. That's all you need. And that does not come externally. It can, absolutely it can. And sometimes I think, I love this, it comes back to another point that I had. Speaking of my partner and all his red flags, the way that I moved through that was, one, to humble myself and to recognize that I had a couple red flags of my own.
We all do. There's not a single one of us who does not have a red flag.
Right. And I think that we need to start humbling ourselves a little bit and recognize what our toxic traits are and what our red flags are.
Absolutely.
And then thank those that are around us in our support system for dealing with our bullshit, because they deserve that kudos.
Absolutely. My God. Because, like, just as often as we get pissed off with our partners or our friends or our parents or siblings, they're getting pissed off with us for the dumb shit we're doing. None of us are perfect. None of us are without baggage.
Right. But that old saying of like, no one will ever love you until you learn to love yourself is total bullshit. It's total bullshit. Okay. Wait a second.
To a certain extent. Everything is a balance. Everything in moderation.
You don't know this yet, but 7 years of our friendship, that has become a literal motto for us. It's all about balance. So you will hear it a lot. I'm pretty sure this is already the second time we said it, and it's the second podcast.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it's all about balance.
Because you have to have, like, a certain amount of self-respect in order to get into a relationship that's good for you.
Yeah.
Because, and also, like, I think it's, when you have that self-respect, you realize how bad previous relationships were.
Right.
And you're not allowing yourself, like, maybe you still go on that date and you're like, yeah, you know, I can see how I would be into him, but you have that self-respect where you're like, but I know based on this, and this, that we're not going to be compatible together. And that self-respect helps you get out of that, and that's what's going to guide you to that healthy relationship.
Right. And you need that self-respect even more so when you do finally find someone who is healthy, because Otherwise, you're likely to self-sabotage. And
Beautiful wall.
do you feel a little called out over there, my love?
Listen, I'm not saying that I've found the healthy relationship, but I've found at least a possibility of one, and I know for sure I threw that shit in the trash.
Oh.
And it was me. It was me. I will fully claim that responsibility. Looking back on it, I'm like,
That could have been all right.
yeah.
It happens. It happens. It's fine.
I'm working on it. I'm not working on it. I'm
Moving through it.
I'm moving through it. Thank you.
Oh, yay, self-correction. Yes, I love that. But yeah, so you have to have enough self-love to have self-respect for yourself, to not sabotage a healthy relationship. But a lot of the times, like my personal experience, my partner loving me the way that he does so perfectly and so gracefully showed me what love was actually supposed to look like, because I can tell you right now, I had literally zero good references for what a healthy, open, communicative relationship romantically should look like.
And
even
I think
non-romantically.
that's true for a lot of us. Like that's why it's so easy. Because I mean, think about the TV shows and stuff that you're watching too.
Oh my God.
I cannot think of any right now that are healthy. I can think of plenty that aren't.
Let's not call anybody out.
But it's a good example of like, of course it's hard for us. And of course you don't have to be 100% healed, because are we ever going to be 100% healed? I'm not really sure about that. But then B, like you said, you needed that reference to be like, oh my God, this is what it was supposed to be. And that's how you figured it out. And that's totally okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on your point about the TV shows, honestly, the further I get in my healing journey, the less I can tolerate the really popular sitcoms lately. I'm just like, everything is a total miscommunication.
Well, and it's not just that, but 27 Dresses I watched.
Oh,
I got that for her birthday.
Yeah.
Bitch has been in a lot of weddings this year.
Yes. I'm in one this weekend.
Oh, my book.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Anyways.
Shaman Dark forgives you.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't forgive people.
Oh, you're damn straight. He accepts what you did.
Thank you.
Not even you. That was my fault. Let's not
He
put
accepts
blame
what
on
we both did.
I mean, yeah, he accepts the role we both played with the energy we were given.
Yes.
It's called growth, people. Okay, regroup us, because I've forgotten.
Oh, yes. So I was watching 27 Dresses.
Okay.
And I remember watching 27 Dresses for the first time and thinking that the younger sister, because if you aren't really sure of the plot, there's the main character who is in love with her boss. Okay. That's a whole thing already. And then the main character's younger sister comes in and starts dating and gets engaged to the boss.
Wait, what?
So the main character's younger sister gets engaged to the boss that the main character's in love with. Boss doesn't know that the main character... Nobody knows besides best friend, side character, that the main character is in love with her boss.
Oh, God. But now she's in love with her future brother-in-law.
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
So
that sucks so bad.
Absolutely. And that's the perspective that we're given.
Yeah.
Which... the first time I watched this, I don't know how many years ago, I remember being like, my God, this sister is such a bitch. She is the worst fucking person. Yeah. And I'm rewatching it. The younger sister comes, meets the boss at a party, goes off, and they hang out, they go and do whatever. And the little sister comes, she's staying with the main character in her apartment. So she comes home to the main character's apartment and asks her, after they first go out, is this okay? Is this weird for you?
So it's totally the main character's
And
fault.
the main character says yes. And
Stupid
then
bitch.
from then on out, the main character keeps like allowing these things. Like the little sister, the dad gives the little sister the mom's dress to wear.
Oh.
And she's like, is this okay? You're fine with this? She says yes. And I will give the one thing that I still think the little sister is a bitch for is she cuts up the mom's dress. She doesn't ask about that part.
Oh.
So I'm like, that one was a bitch move. Yes, absolutely. Especially when you knew that your older sister wanted to wear it. Bitch move. But beyond that, she's just like ditzy and not like, she has no idea that her sister's upset. She's a little self-centered, but like, she's not malicious.
Right, no, especially not if she's asking her sister ahead of time, like, is this okay with you? Like, are you all right with this? Like, yeah, that's totally the main character's fault.
Yeah, and I'm like looking at this and I'm like, this is so unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like all of this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just watching it. I'm like, this is not the way that I remember this movie at all. And it's interesting to go back and watch some of those things once you've like grown the way that you have.
Yeah.
And be like, oh my God. Wow.
Well, good for you. I'm glad that you have lifted and shifted.
Thank you.
into a healthier spot to be able to recognize, like, whoa, you totally could have communicated your issues there.
Right. She could have said from the very beginning, like, I really don't want you to date my boss. I have a crush on him.
Yeah.
Could have been as simple as that.
Yeah.
She could have even not said the crush part. She could have just said, I really don't feel comfortable with you dating my boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, if you're supposedly close with your sister, I feel like you would tell her the crush part anyways, but like, whatever. I mean, like, she was clearly embarrassed about being in love with her boss, but like, still. It's all on you at that point.
Yeah, 100%. And after you've already allowed it, you just have to get over it at that point. Like, it was probably really unprofessional for you to even be considering wanting to be in love with your boss to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I understand that, like, sometimes, you know, shit happens. And sometimes those relationships work out. But you have to communicate your feelings. Mm-hmm. You have to communicate your feelings.
With everybody involved.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you get your feelings hurt because you didn't communicate your previous feelings, then that's your own damn fault.
Yeah. Like, your feelings are valid for being hurt, except for the fact that, like...
You hurt your own feelings.
Yeah, you did it to yourself. You can't place blame then.
Yeah. So, feel your feelings, be upset, but then recognize, have grace, and understand, this is my own fault. I did not communicate my own ways. I need to better discipline myself to be more comfortable to express my feelings and communicate them in an open way so that everyone's aware of what's going on. And I think that's a great segue into our next point, which is that Grace does not tolerate excuses for things. So, like, even though she could have said, like, I'm embarrassed or whatever the fuck your excuse would be for not openly communicating your feelings, it's unacceptable. It does not matter.
No.
And I think in another episode we will talk about excuses and how to further recognize them and how to, like, maneuver that kind of behavior and gravitate away from it.
Yeah.
But for now, we're just going to say that Grace does not tolerate your excuses. It demands self-discipline and self-accountability. Yeah, because you, deep down, no matter how far you have to dig, deep down, you know when you're fucking things up. And you just have to, once you can be honest with yourself about that and humble yourself a little bit, that yes, I made a mistake, this is why, here's how I correct it in the future.
And it's hard.
Of course.
Because you're gonna feel like shit. Like, it's really hard to admit to yourself that you are the problem.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes,
it's me. I'm the problem. Some Taylor Swift song. I don't know.
It's also very humbling, though, to admit that you're the problem. And then here's where that last little tidbit about apologies from the last episode comes in clutch, because apologies, even to yourself, include action. I'm sorry that I treated myself that way. I'm sorry I allowed myself to behave that way in that specific instance. I will not let it happen again. I will recognize a course of action. I will recognize that pattern in the future, and I will establish a plan to subvert that behavior in the future. Grace looks like apologies to yourself too.
Yeah.
And again, apologies include action. It's not just a pretty little set of bullshit that you say to yourself. It is an actual resolve to do better. It is self-discipline. It is accountability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Grace's accountability is accepting apologies for yourself and doing them appropriately.
Yeah, and having that self-discipline.
Yeah.
I think, I talked earlier about how I really struggled in college. And don't get me wrong, my depression didn't by no means just went away.
No.
I still have that. I still struggle with depression.
Just looks different now.
Well, and the grace that I give myself looks so different because, like I said, back when I was in college, I was so overwhelmed, and it was all I could do to go to my 3 jobs and my classes and take care of myself. And now I have 1 job. I'm not going to any classes, and I have much more free time. And so the grace that I give myself is very different.
Yeah.
And now, instead of letting so much go, I allow myself some rot time where I don't do anything. I can just wallow or whatever I need to do, dissociate, whatever that is. If I need that, I allow myself that time. But more often now, what it is it's that self-discipline of, come on, you got to get up, you got to go do the dishes.
Right.
Come on, you got to go change the cat litter boxes. You got to get up and you got to go sweep the floor. You got to get up, you got to shower.
Right.
Even if you're not washing your hair today, at least get in, wash the stank off, and you can put some dry shampoo in your hair.
Right.
So the grace is much more about getting myself going these days because I'm not so overwhelmed with other things. And what would happen if I gave myself the same grace that I did in college is I would get so overwhelmed with how disgusting my home is that would be a much bigger issue.
Right.
And I feel better now with taking care of that sort of stuff. And that helps me feel better about other parts of my life too.
Right. And I think that is something that a lot of people, especially us that struggle with depression, need to really recognize and understand that grace is a part of, even when you're depressed and you really fucking just don't want to do anything except for sit in bed. Some part of grace is forcing yourself to do just one simple little thing, whether that be eat something, whether that be wet a washcloth and clean your fucking pits, whether that be just open the window and sit in the sun. Whatever small little step you have to do in order to do more, that's grace.
I've seen 2 TikToks that I think are beautiful examples of this.
Oh, please share.
And one of them, this girl was talking about when she was at her lowest point, her dad told her, just get up. That's literally it. Just get up. Don't have to do anything else.
Yep.
I think that's beautiful because that ties really well into the second TikTok, which is it's not that you're lacking motivation, it's that you're lacking momentum.
Yeah.
Because once you do your one step, it's so much easier to do a second. Yeah. You don't have to do it all at once.
No.
It can be as simple as you do your one step and you open the windows, and then you do your second step, and that's you changing out of your pajamas. And that's it.
Yeah.
That could be it for that day.
Yeah.
But you've got to have, enough of that self-discipline, which can be that little gentle parent in your head that's saying, come on, just get up, just do this one thing.
Yeah.
Just the one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. And that's absolutely what it is, what it has to be.
Yeah.
Because I think that ties into, what grace is moving forward. And obviously, whenever we do these things, I want to make sure that we're not just giving you guys our opinion. We're not just shooting the shit and telling you what we think. I want to make sure that we're giving you a lot of things that are fact-based, a lot of things that are research-based, and to ensure that you have an activity to take with you, something, if not an activity, a brain seed to grow.
Tools to build on.
Yes, a tool to build on whenever you leave here. So I did a little bit of research about what grace is, and when I found things that weren't Christian related, the search was long. I literally had to go through like 4 Google pages.
That's gross.
4 Google pages. It was a lot. So, but what I did find is an article. It's called Attributes of Grace by John Baldani. He apparently writes a couple books, but this one is called Grace, A Leader's Guide to a Better Us. I haven't read this book, so I can't account for what is in it or not in it, but I did find this one little article, and it stated grace is, and it gave us a cute little anagram. That's what it's called, right? When it's just like the first letter equals a whole nother word.
Or is that an acronym? Oh, my phone's recording. I can't. Oh, I have an iPad.
I have an online.
Okay, so this is when you take a word or a phrase and rearrange the letters to make a new word or phrase. So like this example gives, you can rearrange the letters in a gentleman to spell elegant man.
Oh.
So I think this one is an acronym.
Okay. So they give us a cute little acronym that for grace. Grace is generosity, G. G is generosity, the will to do more. R is respect, which is the dignity of life and work, which is whatever product comes out of life. I know we're trying to get away from that word work, but this has like an actual purpose to it. This is that kind of work. We're having respect for that. A is action, which is the mechanism for change. C stands for compassion, which is the concern for others. I added the concern for yourself as well.
I like that.
Yeah, that wasn't on there originally, but I think genuinely, you're not going to have a single concern for other people if you don't have a concern for yourself. And if you can't relate others' perspectives to your own, like empathy is going to be real difficult for you. So
yeah,
I feel like compassion, concern for yourself and others is applicable. Words are hard. E is the energy, which is the catalyst that moves us, which I like.
I do too. Yeah.
And so then there was another one that I found, and I think that this is the best definition, is divine grace. I think what we really want to establish here, how to find grace in a graceless society, is to tap into your divine grace, which is defined as the divine influence which operates in humans to regenerate and sanctify, to inspire virtuous impulses, and to impart strength to endure trial and resist temptation, and as an individual virtue or excellence of divine origin. This is using your awareness as a tool for grace. Grace then becomes our capacity for potential.
Yeah.
And when we move in grace, we are increasing our kinetic energy, essentially. We are building upon our database and increasing our capacity to grow and to lift and shift.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, at that point, when we move in grace, we are making active and intentional decisions. We are thinking ahead of time.
And I think that grace, a big thing, especially when you're first starting to give more grace to yourself or to others, you have to be intentional about it, because it's not, in the society that we're raised in right now, it's not something that we're super in tune and used to doing.
It's not going to come naturally to us. It's not like something we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that you're gonna have to really think about for a while until you get used to it.
Right.
And even then, it's probably always gonna be somewhat conscious. It might never turn into completely subconscious.
Right.
Because I think that's part of the thing of grace is like being intentional.
And aware.
Yeah.
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 And so you're right. Again, to the point of like, will you ever reach 100% healed? Well, no, because perfection is not a thing. It does not exist. And if you're chasing it, you're doing it wrong. Sorry about you, but that's just the fact of it.
Yeah.
If you're chasing perfection, you're doing it wrong because it doesn't exist. And the goal eventually becomes that some of these ways that we move within grace will become subconscious and that we will be able to move about our day without having to constantly correct our thought processes.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's true of a lot of things with society, and grace is a great example of that because, I've got tattoos on every single finger on my hand. I'm sure you can't see them because they're real small, but I still sometimes see people that are like fully tatted, and my automatic assumption, because of the way I was raised, is like, oh my God, this thug, this gang member, I'm scared.
Gosh.
And I have to stop myself and give them and myself some grace and be like, no.
You don't know who they are.
I don't know who they are. I have tattoos. I'm not in a gang.
Right.
I'm not a thug. And thug is also a horrible term rooted in racism. We're going to just
we'll talk.
Try not to use that much either, but that's a little bit of grace of that. Like I have to consciously correct myself still, but it's gotten better. It's gotten to the point where that's not my automatic reaction anymore. So you can get to the point where things are a little bit more subconscious, but we all have biases. There are always going to be things where we're going to have to go, hang on now, like we don't know their backstory. We don't know what's going on in their lives. We don't know why this thought came into our head other than it's ugly, and we're going to give ourselves and the situation or the person a little bit of grace.
Yeah, and this comes to that point where we really have to recognize that we are not our brains. I want you guys to understand that your brain does not make you. It is just a literal meat sack swimming around in a soup of fluids, cradled in the bowl that is your skull. I'm sorry.
But it's true. We are this whole thing is not us.
No.
This is just our physical being, and who we are is really the energy.
Right.
It's not, I know that people like to get into, well, your subconscious is your true person, or
not even
this
entirely.
is your true person, or it's energy.
Right.
And that is all it is.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right.
And as vague as that. I understand that for some people that's like, what is going on? It's a hard concept to grasp, but it's just energy.
Yeah, and how you move within that energy is your identity.
Yeah.
Your identity is how you choose to manipulate your vibrations and frequencies and your energies.
Absolutely.
And so we have to just recognize that the thoughts that come through our brain, our meat computer, are just bad programming. It's just things that we need to unlearn. It's not who we are. It's just bad programming.
Yeah. So your thoughts are not necessarily you. So like those icky thoughts that are automatic based off of the way you were raised, or your intrusive thoughts, the ones that like you're scooping cat litter and it's like, what if I just ate it?
Oh God, that's a bad one.
That's my most common one.
What?
Yeah. But that's not me. That's not me. That is a random zap of electricity that some wire loose up here is doing. That's not me. I don't want to eat cat litter.
It's like if It's like, okay, you guys, this is only the second episode that you're meeting Im, but she has very much golden retriever energy. She's very adorable, very high energy. She's definitely a people person. Not a people pleaser, a people person. People really like her, and she's very charming. And I
We have
think
very different views of myself, but I love this. Keep going.
she's self-deprecating. Don't listen to her. She's too humble. But maybe that's like your rewiring from a past life. Maybe you were a dog in a past life, and the dogs like to eat cat shit.
God.
It's just really funny.
Cry. Jesus.
What if it's true though?
Maybe. I don't know.
I love it. It's fine. No matter what happens now, in a past life you were a dog.
Sure.
From now on, it's just until we get some past life regression therapy going on and a professional can come in here and prove me wrong. You were a dog in a past life.
What's that dog from Up that talks?
I think he is a golden retriever.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was him. That was my past life. That's why
I
I'm
love
ADHD.
I love that. I love that so much. You would be the cutest little doggo.
I find it so bizarre that you see me as a golden retriever.
Well, I mean, obviously you have your, I think it's what they call black cat tendencies
Right,
nowadays.
yeah.
Like, obviously you're a little witchy hippie doodah. You like the color black. You're a little goth. I see that, but your soul on the inside is very golden retriever.
This is true. I don't like people though.
No, you
I'm
don't.
hardcore introverted, but I like people in the sense that I have this mentality. I got this from The Host, actually, by Stephanie Meyer.
Oh, I love that book.
Great book. Author could be better.
We're not throwing any shade here.
No, absolutely.
Oh, shit.
But from The Host, the guy, Jeb, who is Melanie's like crazy uncle,
Right.
He was like, I have it, because Wanda, the parasite, is like, well, why are you being nice to me? You know,
Right.
like, I'm an alien, I invaded, I took over your niece's body.
Right.
And he's like, I'm of the mindset that I can get along with anybody if I try.
Yeah.
And
love
I kind of took that and ran with it. And you know what? I can. That doesn't mean that I like every person that I interact with, but my goal is always to get along with everybody that I interact with.
Yeah.
And she's an extroverted introvert. Don't let her fool you. She literally goes to bingo every Monday night. In a public place.
Not every Monday.
Or trivia. Is it trivia or bingo?
It's bingo. It's bingo.
It's bingo. And then she goes out to the bar with her friends on the weekends, which is totally cool and fine, but I just don't do that. I am an intense homebody.
I know. But, like, it's so funny to me because I feel like most of my friends are extroverts. And so, like, a lot of times when I've talked about you, I'm like, she's more introverted than I am.
And they're like,
because
whoa.
they're like, oh my God, Emily's such an introvert. And I'm like, no, you don't know.
You're like, so I have this friend Rick, and you probably only meet her like twice in the entire time you ever know me because she doesn't like to leave home.
Yeah, which is valid. Because, I mean, sometimes same.
Yeah, and I get that. I used to find people empowering. But I think now, because I have such a public job, I think
It's
that it kind
very
of
different.
Yeah, it kind of drains me a lot more now.
I totally understand that. So COVID really ruined things for me.
For a lot
and
of people.
I'm still recovering from that because I went to my ultimate introverted self where I was working from home remotely all the time. I lived by myself. It was me and my cat.
Yeah.
And, I really struggled transitioning back, I still really struggle. And a lot of times now, being at work full time makes me feel like I do not have the energy to devote to my family or friends because I have used all of my people energy at work, and it sucks. And mine is not a public job. I sit in an office.
Yeah, that's why I have split days off, man. Because I feel the same way. I cannot work 5 days in a row and feel like once I get to Wednesday, the third day, I'm already like fucking dragging. And I just genuinely do not feel like I can devote time to myself.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, you guys, we all wake up to the same sun. We all have the same 24 hours until it goes back down. Like, we all wake up with one attribute that is exactly the same. Time will move at the exact same pace for every single one of us. And if you want to be doing things, you have to have the self-discipline enough grace in yourself to make time for those things. Those things are not just gonna fucking happen for you just because you want them enough. Manifestation requires work too. And it's not just gonna
fall into your lap. You have to work for it. And it's, you know, a lot of something else that a lot of us have similar is that we have full-time jobs too that we have to devote a large part of our lives to. But I mean, you've got to find a way. You've got to have that self-discipline to do things outside of that.
Yeah. And this is another episode that we will get into that talks more on self-discipline and establishing a routine for yourself so that you can take charge of your time. Because even if you work a 40-hour work week, that is not a good enough excuse to not be devoting an appropriate amount of time to yourself. Because guess what? 40 hours a week, that still leaves however many, you would still have at least another 8 hours before the sun goes down. So you need to find a way to allocate that time. I know a lot of us are just wasting that scrolling on the phone. And that's where that self-discipline has to come in. You have to be able to put that fucking
and that's
thing
another
down.
way that you can show yourself grace too, is because sometimes it is that self-discipline that you have to show yourself to be like, you know, I've got to get up and I've got to do this. I've got to do something for myself, whether that's doing something creative like art or crafts or something, or whether that's reading a book or going out, meeting people and going out with your friends. Whatever it is that's going to get you closer to you. Go on a hike. Some people like hiking. I like hiking. I'm just out of shape. Can't breathe. But I think sometimes you have to show yourself that grace to say, sometimes what I need is that doom scrolling. You just have to find where that balance is and limit yourself so that you can't just doom scroll your life away.
Absolutely.
But you can give yourself the grace to do it every once in a while.
Yeah. And the best way to do that is to set a timer on your phone. That's what I've had to do if you want my personal experience. I have to set a timer on my phone. That way I know I am making the intentional choice to continue to do that. Like when my timer is up and it's like, hey, you have 10 minutes left, or like, hey, your time is done for the day. And I'm just like, no, continue. Then I've intentionally made the choice to like keep doing that. That way I have to hold myself accountable somehow. So, I mean, if that works for you, go on, take it. You can have it. That's some free advice.
For me, I think my thing is I just can't, if I sit down and allow myself to start doing that, that's all I'm going to do. Until I get to the point where I'm just like bored out of my mind, because that comes too sometimes. But like, if I really don't want to doom scroll and I think that I'm in the mood that I'll keep doing it, I just can't start. Because I won't stop.
I feel the same way. And I genuinely have had to take action against that feeling. When I come home from work, like I legitimately, my phone charger is in my bedroom, like most of us. It's sitting on my bedside table. But I put my phone in my bedroom. I plug it in. I put it in there. And that way, if I'm making the active choice to doom scroll, I am in bed. I know for a fact I am wasting my time. So I'm laying down in bed, doing nothing, doom scrolling, and it's like 2:00 in the fucking afternoon.
Right.
And so it's more of a trigger for me to be able to be like, yo, bitch.
Like that is an intentional choice at
Exactly.
that point.
Exactly. So, and that is another perfect way to show yourself grace, is to set things up for yourself. It is hard to think every day. We get that. And especially if you struggle with anxiety and depression and making choices is hard for you and finding motivation is difficult for you. Set it up for yourself to be lazy. Lazy is one of those words that I fucking hate, because it is not laziness, it is efficiency. Just because it looks like less work to you does not make me lazy. I know what my limits are, and so I am setting myself up to ensure that those limits are not issues for me anymore. I set up my clothes preemptively every day so that I don't have to think about it. I do the phone thing nowadays so that I know I'm being intentional. Just be creative with yourself. Genuinely think about how you can fix the issues that you want to work on, and then set yourself up to be able to follow those without thinking about it. Because the easier you can make it on yourself, the easier it will be to follow through, the more confidence you will gain, and the easier the whole process will be.
I think this is really important, especially if you have like a very high stress, high decision job like doctors.
Yes.
Get literal decision fatigue.
Yes.
And it's like, it feels impossible to make one more choice. And sometimes even a choice as simple as, what are you going to eat for dinner? And so you have to almost be... These are some pop culture terms that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think are very applicable in this moment. You almost have to be high maintenance at certain points to then be low maintenance for the other parts of your life.
Right.
So like, I know a lot of like beauty girlies do this, where they're like, well, I'm getting my false lashes and my self-tan on, and whatever else you're doing, dyeing your eyebrows or plucking or whatever, on Sunday, let's say, so that for the rest of the week, you don't have to worry about that. You can just wake up and go. You can apply that same mindset to anything else in your life. Meal prep people do it.
Yes. Or just writing a menu, like if that makes it easier for you.
Just so you know that, and you don't have to say as specific as like, Monday I'm eating this, but like, these are the options that I have for this week.
Right.
Or maybe you do list it as, Monday I'm having this, but you decide on Monday, well, I'd rather have what I have listed for Tuesday. So you flip-flop them.
Right. And that's where grace comes in, and being able to be flexible with your schedules. And that's another thing that we will get into when we get into the routine aspect, is routines are necessary, but they can be flexible. They have to be flexible because, again, it's all about balance.
Yeah.
And so I wanted us to be able to, again, take something home with us. So how do we apply these tools to ourselves? So I found this cute little blog. It's called All the Things, and Things is an acronym for something else that I do not remember now. But her name is Kristen Lee Schindler is the woman who writes this blog. And I guess she has a podcast now. So again, I haven't listened to these things. I've only read one post of her blog. But if you think that this is cool, you may go check it out and go check out more of her content.
Free shout out.
Free shout out to you, because, you know, I'm shouting you out right here. So hers is also another acronym. Is that what we decided that was? Yeah. So G is give yourself permission. All of your validation is internal. Find it, use it.
Absolutely.
R, release what does not serve. You do not have to hold on to your pain anymore. If it does not serve you, move through it and let it go.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say on that. A is adjust to suit your needs. Again, what we were just saying, if you know your limitations, set it up so that you can be productive and efficient in the way that works for you. Everything in life is a balance. Find yours. C is create new. Be brave enough to lift and shift, and to create new patterns for yourself, to create new experiences for yourself, and to create a new existence for yourself. It takes bravery, but you have it. We know you do.
And it can take time. We're not saying that you need to do all of this tomorrow.
No, everything takes time.
Give yourself the grace to do it step by step, because if you try and do it all tomorrow, oh my God.
You're going to overwhelm yourself. You're going to burn out.
And you're not going to be necessarily successful with it.
Right. And so E is embrace your purpose. I promise you, you have one. We will help you find it. If you don't know what it is right now, that's another podcast that we will get into.
It could be as simple as just healing some generational trauma.
Right, or breaking
It
the
doesn't
cycle.
have to be
Large.
as huge as changing the world.
Right, right.
It can be a little purpose. That doesn't mean that it's any less valid or any less important. It just, you
Not
don't
quite as
have to do
complex.
it on a grand scale.
Right, right. Whatever it is, we want you to find it and follow it. And embrace that, which is what E stands for.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a great way to do that, and I think maybe we'll post...
I want to print this out and like hang it on my wall or write it on my mirror where I see it every day or something.
I love that. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and post this for you guys. We'll do a big shout out to Kristen Lee Schindler, and we will post...
And John Baldoni. I don't know if that's how you say his name, but I think both of...
Yeah, Baldoni. Yeah, I don't know. I'm
However,
sorry.
yeah, we apologize. But both of those, I love acronyms like this that are like, make it cute, but like motivational.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and add these to the social medias so that you guys have access to these as well, because you're right, I think it's a good tool to have.
I think we should do like a little like Canva cute picture thing.
I'm down with that. All right, so I think that is all the time that we have for today. We are so very stoked that you were here with us today, and please feel free to take what you need and leave what you don't, and join us in the next chat if you feel like talking about it.
Absolutely. And don't forget to also check out our social medias. We post lots of bonus content and other helpful content as well. And while you're there, why don't you guys tell us stuff that's going on in your world? What are you guys struggling with? We want to help.
After all, that's what a sister's for. Bye, guys. See you next time.